This next part, I'm going to tell you about the conditioning.
Fallon Taylor,
little lady with a great challenge in front of her. This is Flo.
BABYFLO. She wins the world championship.
And the winner's circle for that cowgirl.
in the victory lap, Fallon Taylor will win.
She's riding a new horse, a young horse, out of her champion Flo.
She has absolutely been unstoppable.
What's up, Flomies? Welcome back to my channel. We are here in the barn for an updated winter routine and conditioning routine of what goes on with the horses in the barn. I am up against the queen's stall just to show you guys kind of an example of what we did. So in this stall, to get started, by the way, I'm very pregnant and super out of breath, so bear with me. But we had these infrared heaters installed in every stall. You'll notice that they are unplugged, and then we have specific conductors up here. So very, we have a fireman in the family, so everything is very safe, and we only turn them on should we have some major, oh, and here are the smoke detectors, as you can see down through. They're only going to be used if we have like that kind of polar vortex situation that we did last year. This barn stays pretty warm, it's facing the right direction, and we don't get a ton of wind through here. Plus we're able to shut off the doors at the end and at the front so that we can get this a lot warmer. But typically your horses are going to stay pretty warm when they're enclosed up. So we do have a 10 out of 10 setup, very plush digs that we have here. We understand that, we're so grateful for that. But this is how we do it inside. Now, because these horses are not your average outside horses, we don't love for them to get a ton of hair. Now, this isn't a show horse barn, meaning that if they get a little bit of hair, it's not the end of the world. However, nobody likes their horse to have a whole ton of hair on them. Some of you guys that live with your horses outside, or you feel like your horses are a little bit more durable in the winter if they have some hair on them, I totally get it. However, we do have a different setup, and all eyes are on us. So if we have a horse that looks pretty shaggy and raggedy, a lot of people are going to just like meh at us. So we try to keep them very slick and aesthetically, like we think it looks really pretty, and we have the setup to do so. So we try to do that more often than not. But again, our horses do not look like halter horse slick because we haven't done everything perfectly. But here's what we like to try to do. So all of the horses have their tactical slinkies. So these are half body ones, not full body ones. These are the ones that we just made. They're really cool. They're the spandex material. If you've never used one of these on your horses, we get it a lot of times, like, why are your horses so shiny? Step 1, nutrition. Step 2 is cleanliness. Then beyond that is the tools. So the stalls are cleaned twice a day. The horses always have plenty of fresh water, forage, and grain. And then you go to cleaning them up. Now, the cleaning routine of the horses is mainly about water. So overwashing your horses with a lot of soap and water, which typically we don't have hot water at the barn here, so we're not going to give a lot of winter baths. But when the weather allows, rinsing them off with water is just as beneficial sometimes as soap and water. Soap and water on your horses constantly, several days in a row, can really dry out their skin. So that's not something that you'll do every single day, but water works just fine if you don't have those resources. Then we have a blanket, but these are not, because we're in North Texas, these are not blankets that are like those giant snowbound outdoor blankets. They're just your regular, I can't remember the ply of these blankets, but they're the least heavy winter blankets. If we feel like it's going to be extra cold, we can either pop on those heaters, or we can stack 2 blankets. That can just be a little bit more efficient than us keeping those big giant winter blankets around that we may never use. So that's kind of our winter routine in here. Now, when do we blanket is a big question. If we're on the road, here's the rules that I adhere to. It's a little tougher at home because there are so many horses, but when we're on the road, like say with Hush Money, if it gets to 59 degrees, you can see how tight-haired she is. She looks really good too, by the way, so I just want to show her off. But at 59 degrees, It would be something that I feel like we need to go ahead and put a sheet on, at least a cooler, something that's going to go ahead and give her a little bit of protection because she is so insanely short-haired. At 51 degrees and below is when we're going to put on her slinky and her blanket. If it gets below 39 degrees, then we're going to make sure that she's indoor, that we maybe stack another blanket up because she gets really cold. Flowbot is another one of our horses that gets really, really cold. If you have a horse that's constantly removing their blanket, you may think about what they're telling you and that they may get just a little bit too warm at night. So that is our winter blanketing routine. Grooming routine's pretty simple. We keep them as clean as absolutely possible. And remember, keeping them clean could be as simple as building out a little pen with some panels that you can get on Craigslist and keeping them in a space that's free of mud. Don't let the water overrun. Clean that stall twice a day or more if you need to, and some shavings. So I think that's a huge question that we get on the road. We tend to overfeed on the road because the horses always lose a little bit more weight on the road than they do at home, and that's especially true in the winter months. So that is the getting warm routine for on the road and at home. Okay, so this next part I'm going to tell you about the conditioning. I realize how spoiled we are with this, how grateful. I don't want to say spoiled because we work really, really hard for all the things that you see, and all of the things that you don't see in front of the camera are spent us working really, really hard so our horses can have a better life, and our dogs. But this I've been 30 years without. You don't need one of these to keep your horses in great condition. It just makes it a lot easier, especially with this number of horses. So a lot of big trainers have these. If you're lucky enough to have one of these, congratulations, that's super awesome. I just got one this year and it's been life-changing. This has been amazing. So this is a free walker. It holds 4 horses. You can program it to walk, trot, lope if you wanted to. I would never lope my horses in here because of course they're going to lope on their own accidentally as they like get a little bit fresh or get a little behind. But we go both ways, and then you've got a program just walking, trotting, long trotting, all sorts of things that you can do in here. Now, if you don't have one of these, our version of this that we did all last year and many of the years before that is lunging. We do that in the arena. Now, we do have the advantage of having an indoor space to do that, but we could do that absolutely anywhere. We even have my preferred riding spot, which is way out in the middle of that pasture where there's weeds everywhere. We have a little plowed up spot, and that's my preferred training place for barrel racing, is out there. So you don't need anything fancy. If you do have those fancy tools, that's really exciting. But if you don't, there's no need to be like jealous or envious of those things because you can do things that are just as good. So one, lunging your horse, getting a really long lunge line so that you can start to learn how to do that. There's tons of videos on YouTube. I even have some of how to best lunge your horse. But I like to start at 8 minutes a day, work my way up to 20, 25 minutes. You can even go a little bit longer. Now, the only cautionary tale for me is on older horses. I don't love having them on a short lunge line so that they're constantly using their inside hock to go around, or their stifles. I like those horses to be able to move around in a really big area. So that's another really great way that you can keep your horses in shape over the winter months. Now, if you happen to be in an area where the weather is kind of like it is here, meaning that our winters are fairly mild, but we're not completely snowed in, minus last year. Let's just hope there's no repeat of last year. If you can pony your horse, meaning you ride your horse and then you lead your other horse that you're wanting to exercise, you can knock out 2 at once. If you're really handy, you can do 3 at a time. Some people I've seen do 4 at a time. I advise doing 1 at a time, and you can ride in a place like the pasture. Now, I know a lot of people up north that continue to ride in the snow. I think it's great. As long as your horse is shod for that, in shape for that, you're in shape for that, and you already know the terrain and the territory of what's underneath the snow so you don't accidentally run into a problem, I think you'll be okay. One thing that I think is really cool to note is that horses' legs operate differently than humans' legs. So they have different nerve endings from the knee down than we do. So they're going to get less cold from the knee down than we do. That's why horses can stand in those salt tubs and different things that are very, very cold and have almost no reaction because they have different nerve endings from there to there because they're intended to live outside. So they've already got built-in God snow boots if you wanted to go for a ride very safely outside. Of course, if there's any kind of ice, it's going to be a major problem. Oh, we got a Lilo spotting. So again, not going to use the term spoiled, but I've worked very, very hard to have someone on staff that during this time is going to ride my horses for me. She has been riding my horses and keeping up with their conditioning so the horses look good, they feel good, and they're ready for me to pop right back in the saddle whenever Baby and I are completely ready. Not only that, but she's going to remain here far beyond that. I need help. And it's me, Cody, and Jesse riding. But on top of that, we have horses that need to be broke all the time, horses that are being born all the time, horses that are constantly coming up. And we like to run barrels. It's this other stuff that's really not my forte. I enjoy halter breaking, but beyond that, starting 2- and 3-year-olds since I broke my neck is pretty far out of the equation. Plus, I love having someone that's a specialist at what they do. I think that people that start colts are the unsung heroes of our niche. I mean, there's almost no credit given to those people that break the horses that go on and win big giant world titles when they are the first people to actually swing their leg over them. So the unsung hero is definitely going to be behind the scenes doing all of these things to keep these horses in tip-top shape. And I'm so grateful to be in a position where I actually do have that help. I went many decades without any help, and now to have not only my friends riding, but another friend that's getting these horses starting and going is super important. She rides inside, outside. She's able to kind of ride all over and also interact with the horses every single day, so she knows exactly what they need while I'm a little bit preoccupied. One other thing that I really want to note is in the winter months, making sure that your ice is broken in your troughs, that your ice is broken in your water buckets, that your horses are able to stay very, very hydrated. These are the months when colic is super prevalent and electrolytes generally need to be added. So make sure that you're really watching your horse's water. I love having at least 2 water buckets hung or a big giant trough that's checked multiple times a day, because when the weather changes, our horses are going to drink a little bit less. If we're able to exercise them and build a little bit of stamina or lunge them, we can even that out quite a bit because we're going to build a little bit of thirst. But if your horse isn't drinking, making sure that they get some form of electrolytes is super important. Plus, keeping a salt block or free choice salt is always a great idea too. So all of those things in the winter months, they matter. They're super important. I know if you have inclement weather, it's going to be really tough for you to be able to figure out what days that you can ride. But remember, these are outside animals and we won't melt. Riding outside in the rain won't hurt anybody. I've enjoyed it a lot, being able to ride outside, getting my horses prepared for that, because there will be a time when I have to run barrels outside, run barrels in the mud, run barrels in the rain, run barrels in high wind. And I love for the first time for that to happen to not be when there's 20,000 people watching. So I hope you guys have enjoyed the winter routine / conditioning vlog, because it's super exciting to show you guys kind of the inner workings and behind the scenes of what goes on. If you guys are not already subscribed, make sure to be subscribed and ding the notification bell, because we're going to continue to post as we go and show you guys all the stuff and things of me gearing up for a huge comeback. And I'm so excited for that. I actually kind of already know where my first rodeo is going to be, but we're going to conceal that until the very last moment. But I'm super, super excited to bring you guys along this journey, and you get to see all of these horses that you've gotten to see in these vlogs start to come up and run barrels at upcoming jackpots when we go in the spring and all of that good stuff. So make sure you're subscribed. As always, you guys, don't forget to count your blessings, drink your protein, and say thank you to Jesus. See you next time.